Welcome, everyone, again. Thank you all for joining. At this point, we are about 5 minutes away from the program beginning. We are going to be going live at 11:33. So to be exact, 11:33, we'll be going live. So if you have an assigned seat, please take it. If you are a member of the media, please go to your designated area at this time. If you have a cell phone and a crazy ringer, please turn it off. We'll come back in a moment, but we're going live in about 4 minutes. I've been asked to remind you, especially for those of you seated, please do not stand during the ceremony. We are going live broadcasting, so we don't want to get in the way of any of the shots, so please remain in your seats. For those of you in the media, please stay in your assigned locations. Thank you. Mark, we are back here with water also, so if you need water, just signal to us. We'll bring you water. Would you like one now? All right, we're 2 minutes away from the beginning of the program. The program is going to begin on the video monitor, so you'll watch the monitor, and then the program will begin. Thank you all for being in attendance. All right, we're at a minute away. One final reminder from media. When the unveiling occurs, please stay in your location. We will, Dodgers PR will let you know once the photographs are done when you're allowed to move around, but please stay in your assigned locations. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Dodger Stadium. Please join us in welcoming Dodger broadcaster Charlie Steiner.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very special day. And they played in Brooklyn for 67 years. They've been in Los Angeles now almost as long, 65 seasons. What has made the Dodgers so historically significant and unique has been their contributions to the social fabric of our country. In 2015, the statue of Jackie Robinson was revealed here for the first time, and we're here today for the unveiling of the statue for Sandy Koufax. An African-American star athlete from Pasadena is about to be joined by a Jewish left-handed pitcher from Brooklyn, who in one defining moment, prior to the first game of the 1965 World Series, he galvanized an entire community and a generation of baby boomers, children of the 60s and 70s who are now adults in their 60s and 70s. We are pleased and honored to hear from some of his friends, admirers, and a former opponent who happens to be a fellow Hall of Famer. Like Sandy, he grew up in Brooklyn. But unlike Sandy, he grew up a Giants fan. And so naturally, he would go on to manage the Yankees and the Dodgers. A 9-time All-Star, a batting champion, most valuable player, 4-time World Series champion, and Hall of Famer, Joe Torre.
Thank you, Charlie. Can I turn the page and continue on your stuff here? No, I guess not. I look around, and I can probably say safely that I'm the only one that faced Sandy Koufax that's sitting in this crowd here right now. And the one thing about it, when I was playing, we'd always look, at that time there were newspapers, so you'd look at probable pitchers in the series that would be coming up, and every time you'd go play the Dodgers, you'd look, and I'll be darned if it wasn't Koufax and Drysdale again, every 4 days. You know, I have to be careful how I word things, because I say I hit against Sandy Koufax, but I have to take that back. I faced Sandy Koufax. I'd like to say he was one of a kind. Very special, but I was a teammate of another one of a kind, that was Bob Gibson. And these two are in a class, I don't know what you can say other than the trust factor was so huge. And when they went out there, it was nothing but business. Thing about facing Sandy, fastball, curveball, pretty simple, right? However, and I was watching a video that Hank Aaron did, and they asked him about Sandy's fastball, and Hank would say, yeah, it would start here, and then it would finish up here. And then the person who was doing the interview said, that can't happen. He says, well, maybe it can happen, but it happens. If I was looking for Sandy's fastball, one I wanted to hit, it would have to, in my eye, be ankle high to start with, because then it would finish somewhere in here. And then the curveball, it would have to be up here somewhere, because if you would look for it at a hitter spot, it would be in the dirt. He was remarkable. And you knew he was pitching because you can hear it. Whether it be his fastball or his curveball, you can hear it go. And that's rotation, or as they say, spin rate, right? What talk about nowadays, spin rate. He was a winner. He went out there, gave you everything he had. If it was good enough, good for him. If it wasn't, so be it. He'd be out there again in 2, 3, or 4 days. I did find a little bit of a hiccup, though. We were doing an interview probably about 10 or 12 years ago, and I looked up some stats, and I saw his 1993 numbers of, 25 and 5, earned run average 188, and there was one thing that caught my attention, and there were 7 intentional walks. Now, when you have a 188 earned run average, who the heck are you afraid to pitch to? So I posed that question to Sandy, and he said they're all named Henry Aaron. He, in his career, and his career was abbreviated, obviously, 12 years, and if you want to count the first 2 where he had less than 100 innings pitched, he put some numbers together. Celebrating his 50th year in the Hall of Fame, which is amazing. He's a special man. Not only his ability to pitch and be a teammate, but being a friend. And I love this man. So I'm just proud to be here to share what we're all going to see in a few minutes. But it's great seeing you, Sandy.
Thank you, Joe. One of the pleasures of what it is I do is watching young and gifted athletes grow and mature into men at the top of their game, and then watching the unique relationships they develop with those who understand how difficult their task can be. Sandy understood better than most what Clayton Kershaw has gone through to this point in his life and his career. Watching Sandy watch Clayton with nearly parental pride has really been a joy, as it is now for me to introduce number 22, Clayton Kershaw.
All right, I got to follow Joe. That should do well. Okay. It really is such an honor for me to get to speak today. Sandy and Jane have meant so much to my family throughout the years. So to have the opportunity to get to do this is really special. And for Sandy, I'll keep it brief, I promise. After getting drafted by the Dodgers, whether you ask for it or not, you become indoctrinated with the history of this organization and all the players that have come before you. More specifically, as a pitcher, you begin to understand the excellence on the mound that has characterized the organization and what will be expected of you. There have been so many incredible pitchers in the Dodgers' storied history, and you hear about them a lot, but Sandy stood out. He always did. And I remember one of the first times I got to sit down and speak with Sandy, it was on a flight to LA for Joe's charity event. And I was sitting there, and I thought, Sandy and Joe, some old ball players, I'm just going to have to sit through, well, back when we played, or, this is how I used to do it. And I thought I was going to sit through that for the whole flight. But it was a far cry from that. I got to know Sandy on that flight. And after that night, I remember thinking, wow, Sandy genuinely cares about how I'm going to do in this game. And from then on, I was able to talk to Sandy. He would call me when good things happened to congratulate me. He would call me when bad things would happen to encourage me. And he'd even call me during the off season just to check in on Ellen and I and see how the chaos of our life has gone with our 4 kids. And Sandy, one day I hope I can impact someone the way you have championed me. You really have, left-handed pitcher or not, just in life. And on Thursday, a couple days ago, I called Harlan, our mutual friend, just to see what I should say, what I should talk about up here. And you happened to be there with him at that time, and you took the phone and you said, I heard you were struggling with your breaking ball. Let me help you. And you told me to stay tall, and that was it. It was simple, it was helpful, but it was also caring, and it was also genuine. And those are the qualities that I admire most in you. In the years and generations to come, I hope a kid sees this statue and asks his mom or dad about Sandy Koufax. And I hope that they tell him he was a great pitcher, but more than that, he was a great man who represented the Dodgers with humility, kindness, passion, and class. And for every rookie who sees the statue for the first time and asks, was he any good? I hope the veterans tell him simply that he was the best to ever do it. And for me, I was looking back on the time that we were at Vin's retirement ceremony on the field, and something you said stuck with me about Vin. You said that the thing you treasure most about Vin is that he allows you to call him a friend. And that's the same for me. So I'm grateful for that, Sandy. And I know you don't believe it, but there's no one more deserving of you than this honor. So congratulations. All right, I'm done.
Sandy's skills were undeniable, his principles and courage unquestioned. He was 19 years old when he threw his first pitch for the Dodgers. 19. 17 years later, at the age of 36, he became the youngest player ever inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, here's a look at how Sandy got from there to here. He was a teenager when he made his major league debut with his hometown team, the 1955 Brooklyn Dodgers. In every sense, 19-year-old Sandy Koufax was a boy of summer. At Lafayette High School, basketball was his favorite sport. He was the captain of the team. His 1953 yearbook predicted that one day he would be a professional basketball player. His dream was to play for the Knicks. Baseball was secondary. All the while, he played first base in high school. While Sandy was a basketball walk-on at the University of Cincinnati, he also made the varsity baseball team. And within a year, armed with a golden gift, the Southpaw had tryouts with the Pirates, Giants, and the Dodgers, with whom he signed a bonus contract, which meant he had to be on the big league roster the entire season. Koufax was the only teenager on the team. Sandy made 12 appearances in 1955, 5 starts, 2 complete game shutouts, including a 14-strikeout two-hitter against Cincinnati. It was a sign of things to come, but not immediately. Through the 1960 season, he won only 36 games and lost 40, with an earned run average north of 4. And then something happened in a spring training game in 1961 in Orlando, Florida, against the Twins. Koufax walked the first 3 batters in the game. Catcher Norm Sherry came out to the mound and suggested, "Quit throwing so hard. Let him hit it." He did, and they couldn't. That was 60 years before the phrase pitch to contact became fashionable. In 1961, Sandy won 18 games, led the majors with 269 strikeouts, and was named to the All-Star team for the first time in what would become an annual occurrence. In 1962, he picked up where he left off. On April 24th, he struck out 18 Cubs at Wrigley Field. 2 months later, on June 30th, he would throw the first of his 4 career no-hitters. The Mets were the victims at Dodger Stadium. But the fickle finger of fate intervened. His left index finger suffered circulatory problems, and his season would effectively end in July. Even so, he went 14-7 and struck out 216 batters in just 184 innings. Fully recovered in 1963, Sandy led the majors in wins. He went 25-5 with an earned run average of 188, 11 shutouts, 306 strikeouts in 311 innings. He threw his second no-hitter and won his first Cy Young and the National League Most Valuable Player Award. And when the Dodgers swept the Yankees in the World Series, he bookended the Bombers' demise with complete games by striking out 23 and walking only 3. In 1964, Sandy threw his 3rd career no-hitter, equaling Bob Feller's modern-era record. He went 19-5 with a 174 earned run average. But he was diagnosed with arthritis in his elbow, which would end his career prematurely just 2 years later. In his final 2 seasons, pitching in pain, and when he wasn't, his elbow seemingly always in a bucket of ice, he went 56-17 with an earned run average of under 2, with 699 strikeouts and 658 innings in 82 starts in just 2 seasons, his last 2 seasons. In '65, he won his second Cy Young Award and pitched his 4th no-hitter, and this time, Sandy was perfect.
Sandy into his windup. Here's the pitch. Swung on and missed. A perfect game.
And then came the memorable World Series against the Twins. In an act of conscience, principle, and even peaceful disobedience, the Dodger ace would not pitch in the first game, as it was on Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the Jewish calendar. But he did pitch games 2, 5, and 7, shutting out the Twins in the 5th and 7th games. In the space of 3 days, roughly 72 hours, he allowed no runs, 7 hits, 20 strikeouts, and walked only 4.
Here's the fella who gave the Dodgers the championship, Sandy in Los Angeles, when you pitched your 7-0 shutout. You were quoted as saying after the game, "I feel 100 years old." So today, how do you feel?
101.
101.
I feel great, Vinny. I know I don't have to go out there anymore for about 4 months.
Sandy, thank you so very much. And now go on back and sit down and relax a little while.
Thank you, Vinny.
1966 would be his final season. The arthritis in the 30-year-old elbow would simply be too much to bear. But Koufax would save his best for last. 27 wins, 27 complete games, 317 strikeouts, a career-low earned run average of 173, and his 3rd Cy Young Award. 50 years ago this month, the Dodgers retired the team's first 3 jersey numbers of Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, and Sandy Koufax.
When I was younger, growing up in Brooklyn, I had some heroes. My heroes were the Brooklyn Dodgers. I never thought I'd get this chance to be standing here with them today.
His number's already been retired for a half-century. But tonight, and going forward, his likeness, his leg kick, and his left arm will be immortalized, right next to number 42, Jackie Robinson, number 32, Sandy Koufax. It has been 10 years since Mark Walter and his partners purchased the Dodgers. The improvements in the stadium itself, remarkable. Where we are this morning, the Center Field Plaza, simply didn't exist 10 years ago. And the improvements on the field, Dave Roberts is here, speak for themselves. The sense of community involvement, being part of the social fabric, continues now more than ever with the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. The chairman and controlling owner of the Dodgers is a conservationist, a social justice advocate, and has become very close friends with Sandy. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Walter.
Thanks, Charlie. Since our group has taken over the team over the last 10 years, we and our families have had many, many blessings, but none more cherished than the time and friendship we've had with Jane and Sandy. Sandy's accomplishments on the field are legendary. We could talk about them for days. Maybe the best summary is the simple truth. Sandy Koufax is one of the greatest players of all time. But what Sandy means off the field may be more important. He helped break barriers and stereotypes. He lifted people up. I have been told by so many people across the country, from all walks of life, whether it's just the person on the street or the head of a university or the head of a major company, they've told me how much Sandy Koufax has meant and means to them. He gave them confidence. He gave them inspiration. He lifted them up. And so, Sandy, when you're great on and off the field, this is one of the things that happens for you.
"60 years ago today, right here at Dodger Stadium, Sandy shut out Bob Gibson. 1-0. Tommy Davis hit the game-winning home run in the bottom of the ninth. They weren't called walk-offs yet. He scattered 5 hits, 2 of them to Stan Musial. Struck out 9, didn't walk anybody. He improved his record to 10-2. Time of game, 2 hours and 18 minutes. Now that's pace of play. This morning, we hope we've done our best on pace of program. And now with that, 60 years later, my honor to introduce Sandy Koufax.
Well, I think the film said everything I wanted to say, so I'll be leaving now. Now, 67 years ago, Jackie Robinson became my teammate and friend. At that time, sharing this space with him would have been absolutely unimaginable. And today it still is. It's one of the greatest honors of my life. I'm also honored to have 2 very good friends here. Clayton and Joe, thank you for being here. Thank you for the kind words. It's been fun knowing you both. Conventional wisdom has always said, don't give an old man a microphone. He's got too many years to talk about. Well, I try not to, but I'm going to start way back at the beginning. In high school, my life was all about basketball. I didn't even think baseball existed. After my senior year, the senior year of basketball was over, I decided, well, I'm going out for the baseball team because my best friend is their best pitcher, Fred Wilpon. So I said, okay, I'm going out for baseball. Well, they had 2 other good pitchers, so I ended up either in right field or first base or wherever. But our catcher was a guy by the name of Walter Laurie. And Walter's father, Milton, ran a Sandlot baseball team. And he was at our practices and games sometimes. And I have to thank him. I think he started this journey here. He asked me to come pitch for his team. And I didn't know what the hell pitching was, basically, but I said, okay. He worked for the Old Journal-American newspaper. And on game days, his delivery van became the team bus. And his getting me to this point probably wouldn't have happened without him. That summer over, I went to the University of Cincinnati. I wasn't really a walk-on, I was invited to come. I didn't have a scholarship, but I was invited to come out. I did make the team. I was a starter. I wasn't great, I wasn't bad. But the freshman coach was Ed Jucker, who was also the baseball coach. So the baseball team was going to New Orleans, and I decided I want to go to New Orleans. So I volunteered. I became a pitcher. You know, freshmen weren't eligible, so on that trip I pitched against an Air Force base, and during the season I pitched against 2 non-conference games. And with that great amount of experience, that winter I signed a contract to pitch for the Brooklyn Dodgers, which is more surprising than thought of playing for the New York Knicks. Yeah, it just didn't really. But winter over, spring training off to Vero Beach with absolutely no clue of what to do. And as Charlie said, the only reason for me in the big leagues, the owners had come up with a new rule to save them from giving out bonuses. If you got over $4,000 to sign, you had to spend the next 2 years in the major leagues. My presence on the roster wasn't, a happy experience for a lot of people. You took other people's jobs, maybe you took somebody else's job. But Jackie went out of his way to make me feel welcome, and I'll never forget his kindness on that. The team was pretty special in 1955. If you think that 5 guys on that team are now in the Hall of Fame, and one more should be. Don Newcomb was probably the outstanding pitcher of that time. And Don took me aside right away and said, pitching is hard work. If you're not working hard and you're making it easy, you're not doing it right. And I believed that, and I lived by that after that. The Dodgers' success in the late 50s, early 60s has the fingerprints of so many people on it. It's hard to describe how so many of them performed so well to put us in a position to play on a grand stage, the World Series. List of people is incredibly long, but I'm going to go through some as quickly as I can. My first pitching coach, Joe Becker, believed in me from the start, and I've never figured out why. My second pitching coach, Lefty Phillips. My manager, Walter Alston, he's my only manager. I'm not sure he was that happy with me as a bonus player, but we came to have a pretty good relationship through the years. All my roommates, Doug Camilli, Norm Sherry, Carl Furillo, Dick Trzaskowski, you spend so many hours in one room, you become like family. Most of all, I thank my teammates, all of them. All the catchers. There's a special relationship between pitchers and catchers. John Roseborough was basically my catcher most of the time, and our relationship was incredible. Never any doubt. When I look for a sign, it's really what I wanted to throw. John didn't create any doubt in my mind. Our all switch hitting infield. Jim Lefevre, Wes Parker, Jim Gillian, Maury Wills. They were great defensively. Jim Gillian played anywhere you needed him. Maury Wills came up in the middle of 1959 and made himself, through sheer will, the most potent offensive player in the game. Every base hit, every walk was a double or triple. Willie Davis ran down with his speed, ran down all your mistakes as long as they stayed in the ballpark. Sometimes couldn't do anything about it. Tommy Davis was probably one of the outstanding hitters at that time. And you look at his numbers in 1962, where he batted .346 and had an incredible 153 RBIs. It was great. It's just hard to remember everybody. We had 2 relievers who were, I guess, late men, but the late men then might have pitched 3 innings. In 1963, Ron Peronowski was 16-3 in relief. In 1966, Phil Regan was 13-1 in relief. So they weren't pitching 1 inning at the end. They were pitching quite a few. And all the other guys who sat in the left field bullpen, who the starting pitchers did their best to let them sit there and keep them out of games. Didn't always work. Our starting pitchers, Johnny Padres, Claude Osteen, Joe Moeller, Don Sutton was the Dodgers' only 300-game winner. And of course, Don Drysdale. We were together for 11 years and grew up together. I think we were friends, but I think in some ways we're competitors because he standard a set of, an excellence that I tried to live up to. I tried to set an excellence that he lived up to, and I think it made us both better. I can't forget Al Farrar just because he's from Brooklyn. Lou Johnson, who came to the team, and his joy and his infectious spirit made our clubhouse, not to mention a few big hits, but made our clubhouse a very special place. Frank Howard, not much to say about him, except that some of the balls he hit may still be going, I don't know. Our trainers, Bill Bueller and Wayne Anderson, did their best to keep us on the field and perform. Inside the clubhouse, our equipment manager and also a good friend was Nobu Kawano. Vin Scully. Well, there's a lot of talk these days about greatest of all time. GOAT used to be a bad thing. Now it's the greatest of all time. Well, that's the end of discussion. Vin Scully is the greatest of all time, period. No discussion. It's him. The owners were great owners. The O'Malleys were great owners who did their best to make our lives pretty good. I think my only regret today is that so many are no longer with us, and I am unable to let them know how much I thank them and how much I appreciated them. Thank you to all the fans who treated me so well, and tell them how lucky they are to have had competitive teams to root for so many years. Andrew Friedman and his staff have done their best to provide players for Doc, and the owners who made these teams possible, the Walters, the Pattons, Todd Bowley, Peter Goober, Stan Kasten, and of course, my other favorite, number 32, Magic Johnson. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day. And for all you came out, thank you. And for my family and friends, thank you very much. I love you one and all. I'm done.
So bad, right?
No.
This is wonderful. Before we go, a special thank you to the artist who created the magnificent statue that is right here, now and forever, next to Jackie Robinson, Brandley Cadet. He sculpted this one, too. The slide, the leg kick, and the pitch, and the artistry of Brandley Cadet. That concludes our ceremony, and in just a few hours, once again, it will be time for Dodger baseball. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. For the media, we are going to have a photo op right here with Sandy. Please make sure you stay behind the stanchions.